I the only guy who has a podcast who? Let me just make sure we're recording. Hey, am I the only guy who has a podcast whose podcast video looks looks like it reflects the world? You know what I mean? I've been doing this bunker shit for what? Over a year now. In the garage, living them bunker life. People now are all of a sudden like, oh, we're going to be stuck. Whatever, dude. This has been my life. I'm like the only guy who. I'm not saying I wanted this. By no means. By no means. Let me just mark this down. 11:25. By no means did I want this. No means. But I'm saying, come on. Like, if we're built for survival, I mean, to all the parents out there, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? Like, I am lucky because my wife has been making plans for each day. And then I take her plan. And when I take the kids, I go either as closely to it as I can or I just like loosely based off it, right? First of all, what's up, everybody? There's no beating around the bush anymore. It's like we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're experiencing something so insane. The most insane thing we're ever going to see in our lives. You know, ever. 9/11 was insane. By the way, listen, I'm a patriot, okay? Not a Patriot fan. I'm a patriot. I've gone overseas into a war zone, into Iraq, to entertain our troops. I support my troops. I've been to Kuwait. I've been to other countries that we're not supposed to say we're in, okay? But, like, we talk about 9/11. Do you know that, like, attacks like that, not to that magnitude, of course, and not involving, well, that's not necessarily true. These things happen at other, you know, just because it's the biggest city, one of the most recognizable cities in the world, and the way that it happened, you know what? Now I'm actually going to change my opinion. I'm like, nah, it was crazy. But it was crazy. It happened to us, United States. And it happened specifically in one city. And the whole world didn't shut down. Like, New York bounced back quick from that. You know what I mean? Like, not quick, but it kept going. This is insane as to, like, people are just what's happening and how it's affecting so many people. Everyone. I mean, maybe how is this affecting, like, little tribes in the middle of Africa? Is it getting to them? And even if it does get to them, jeez, I don't even know. What's up, everybody? Obviously, if you had plans, some of you have already hit me up about it. If you had plans to come see me next week in Vermont, yes, that's canceled. If you have plans to come see me in 3 weeks in North Carolina, yes, that is canceled. Who knows? Who knows when it's going to... Even if they came back, like right now we're 2 weeks off from... Kids are 2 weeks out from school. Today's day 3. Now, we had a weekend, though. That was pretty much the same thing. Everything got canceled. Ballet class, Little League is canceled. Like, all these things are canceled for the year. So, our Saturday and Sunday were kind of on par with, like, what these last 3 days have been, except we weren't, like, incorporating learning. We did a lot of cleaning. You know what I mean? We did some cleaning in the house, which I think is great. If you have a project you want to do around your house, get your kids to work. Put music on. You want to clean a closet? Put music on. Start picking stuff. This is the time to do it. You want to get ahead in your house? This is the time. We took our kids' nook. We cleaned it. That's gone. That's gone. I want to do a couple closets. We got closets in this house that just need to be, like, top to bottom redone. This is the time. There is nothing else to do. Even people who are working, like, are you really working? There are some people that are like, yeah, if you own, obviously in the healthcare business, people are working, but everyone's like working from home. It's just like this, it's just insane. I know everyone is thinking the same thing I'm thinking. When are we gonna? What's gonna be the next thing that we find out about? Because we're also like, well, what are they gonna tell us? Well, you can't do this, or then you can do this, or it's okay to do this, or you can't. Every bar, restaurant. First of all, let's be straight up. Who needs to go to a bar or restaurant right now? You don't, dummy. Just stay at home. You can't go 3 weeks and be like, well, I need to be out. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because you're the problem. You're just like pushing it further. What if you're the one who's like, well, I'm not sick? Who knows? We don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I got people telling me, though, people who do know. And I just know that if they're saying, hey, we're going to shut down all of New York, all of San Francisco, then maybe you should start thinking a little differently about like what you think is okay to do. Now, did I go to a state park with my kids today? Yes, I did. We were probably some of the first people there. We hiked up. There was this trail. This is the best, first of all. I love going out into nature, and I definitely don't do it enough. You don't really have a weekday where you can just go hike, you know, because I could do it. I could get the kids to school and be like, hey, I'm going to go for a hike, bring my computer, hike halfway up, write for an hour, hike down, write for another hour, eat lunch there, and then come home. I think if anything, what this pandemic is doing is it's giving us a perspective upon what we love, right? And when we have the ability to do it. Because just for me to be able to go on a Wednesday today, and I hiked up with my kids, my wife stayed home, she did some work, we hiked up this trail, and there's a picnic table like halfway through the hike. So you just go up, and then you're just on one level, and it's just like this like loop, but like at the same level. It's not like constant, which is good for the kids. We have another one we go, it's up, down, waterfall. Maybe we'll do that next week or something. But this one is just hike up, and then we get to this picnic table, and I brought snacks, brought watermelon, carrots, and a fig Newton for the boy, grapes, carrots, fig Newton for the girl. And I made these like packets for them, like just paper packets, blank paper. And they have along the trail, they have like these stakes in the ground and a number carved in for like, it's not mile marker, but it's markers like a map marker. So if you had a map, you'd be like, oh, we're at marker 5. You look at it and you say, oh, like, I don't know. I don't know why they have them, to be honest with you, except for why you have street signs or house numbers. You need to know where on the trail you are. And so we would take the piece of paper and we would put it over the number and then etch over it with a pencil. Now, we've hiked this place probably like 8 times. We never brought work to do because it's like a weekend. We're like, oh, well, we're getting them out. We're getting active. We were just like, this is just fun time. And I realized just doing this made it fun. Okay? We collected rocks. We collected flowers. Now, we never collect flowers on hikes because what if everyone did that? There'd be no flowers. I looked at this as like a different time. This is a different situation. I was using it as like a class. So we picked all these different color flowers. We get to the picnic table. Sit each kid down. They get their snack, and then I set up their notebook that I made. We laid all the flowers out. We had to count the flowers. I had them each count the flowers so we get the number. Now, can they both count them? Yeah, but it's just like a part of it, You get them counting, looking at the numbers. Then we talked about the colors. Then each of them, I brought crayons. They each picked one flower, and then they each drew a flower. And then we took a little picture of them with their flower next to their drawing. Then we snacked some more. I brought this like homework packet he has where it's like shows him how to draw something. He draws it, and then he has to write a sentence about it. So he did that. And then I just had her do some more drawings. She's younger, just like coloring, and she's having fun. And then there was like a mile, like one of those markers, not a number. It was just like a marker. I think it was a trail marker, to let you know, like this is like where this trail was, and it had like this little like reflector on the side. That was an octagon, and my daughter was like, "Daddy, what's this?" And I'm like, "Well, let's look at it." And I'm like, "What shape is that?" And they didn't reads like a hexagon. And I'm like, "No." I go, "How many sides does it have?" And they count, and they're like 8. And I'm like, 8. Do you know how? They didn't know. I'm like, how many arms does an octopus have? And they're like, 8. I'm like, that's 8. Octopus, octagon. Octopus, octagon. Then we went back to the desk, the table, the picnic table. They each drew an octagon. Then I had them spell octagon, write the number 8, and then I explained the oct of 8 is also like how October starts, October, which you'd think at this point it'd be the 8th month. Am I wrong? Should be the 8th month. No idea why it's the 10th. Anyway, it was the best, dude. We sat at that picnic table for an hour. For a little while, they'd run around. We brought binoculars. We saw a blue jay. We looked at it. Then it flew over. We followed it, kept watching it with the binoculars. We had these little tiny binoculars. They loved it. They loved every single thing about it. Then, they love doing. The thing is, how often? I mean, this is another thing. Like, my buddy was over earlier, and he was saying, it's my direct neighbor. We're just like, we're the same. We live in the same house. We share a wall. So, we're quarantined from everyone, but, like, you live in the same house. And he was over, and he's saying people are going to, like, be like, yeah, teachers need a raise after they have to, like, homeschool their kids. But, like, this was always a dream for me. I don't know about anyone else out there, but I never looked at education. Memory is, like, the one thing that everyone says, oh, memory. All learning is memory in so many ways. I'm not saying that's everything, but that's all tests are. That's all I feel like a normal education is, testing your memory. How well do you memorize something? And I can't stand it, because for me, if I had to read something, I could read a book and not know what it was about. I could read the whole thing and not know what it's about. Because it's tough for me to, like, when I'm reading, I just kind of, like, get into it. I listen to the words. I listen to the rhythm. I like different things about it. I'm not remembering what things were happening. In some cases I do. Others I don't. But, like, so often, and my brain drifts, clearly. You guys know this. But, like, I'll be reading something, and I'll get, like, have you ever done this? Have you ever been reading a book, and you get through, like, 3 pages, and you're just like, what? I've been thinking about how to make lasagna for the last 3 pages, and I don't know anything that happened. Nothing. I can still read the words. This happens to me in stand-up, too. I'll be on stage. This is when I know I need to, like, write new material, and I need to wake myself up the moment this happens. I'll be doing stand-up, and I'll be, like, looking at someone being like, what the heck is this guy drinking a vodka cran for right now? Like, why would you wear that shirt? And I'm telling jokes the whole time, and I'm like, dude, you are not in it right now. It's the same thing with reading books. How do you think everyone can learn that way, where you read? They can't. Which is why I like project-based learning. And why, when I was with my kids doing this stuff, we're on a hike, so we're getting exercise, sitting at a picnic table, out in the fresh air, wind going by. We're up on the top. We're on a mountain, essentially, looking out at, like, the ocean and trees, and we're taking things that we found along the way, which we learned along the way. Then we lay them out. We use math. We use English. We're using hand-eye coordination. We're drawing. We're being artistic. It's unbelievable. And I just think you're more apt to remember things when they're put forth that way than if it's just, like, reading in a book or in a classroom. Now, yeah, does everyone have the 40 to 60 grand a year you would need to pay to send your kids to a school that taught that way? No, bro. Not even close, because that's the way it goes down in a lot of those schools. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it this way, and you build a car for a year, and in that time you build a car, you also learn 15 different things. No, we can't afford that. Would I love that? Yeah. Did I love being up there? Like, I was standing with my foot up on my side of the bench, and they were sitting on the other side, and I'm, like, giving them assignments. I'm like, all right, now understand this. Or what do we? And we'd be spelling. I'm like, sound it out. And my son is he's, like, learning to read and write, and, like, that's what you're doing in kindergarten. And he's just, like, quick to it, and she's just, like, she's learning everything from him. So she's like, oh, it's the best, dude. It's the best. Now, am I able to do all that because everything's on this lackadaisical schedule right now? Now, some people aren't working at all. My wife is still working, but it's like things are like way curved down because there's just nothing going on. I'm on a job right now. It's writing. So when the kids go to bed, I'll write till, I'll write from like 8 to 11. Then I get up in the morning before the kids wake up and I write. And then this is how it went yesterday. And then I take the kids and I left the house at 8:30 and I came back at 12 after the hike and everything. And then I get to do some work. My wife takes care of them, and then we both are kind of like we're kind of letting them free play around the house and yard, and I'm doing work and she's doing work. And it's just like, it's like this pretty, for me, feels like liberating and feels amazing for us to be able to both be carrying on and be around the kids and teach them and stuff. I mean, at some point, like at different ages, I know, listen, if you talk to anyone who's ever homeschooled, the kids are not doing homework or doing work from 9 to, or like say your kid goes to school at 8, you're out at 2:40, 8 to 3. When you're homeschooling, not even close. First of all, it's one-on-one, right? Second of all, think of all the breaks you have at school in between periods. You have your lunch break, you have recess, you have free periods, you have whatever. You know what I mean? So like when you're homeschooling, you can grind those kids from like 8 to noon, and then you could have the rest of the day to like, get your kids in a cooking class. I don't know. Homeschooling to me was always kind of a little bit of a dream. And in LA County, if you homeschool, the city pays for you to bring like specialists in. So like you can bring someone in. My buddy homeschools his kids and they have a woman come teach Spanish because they don't know Spanish, but the kids learn Spanish. But you know how they learn it? Through gardening. The woman comes over and you garden. You do a whole gardening with her, and everything is in Spanish. So you're learning Spanish through a project. You know what I mean? Get the fuck. Telling you this right now. That is something I am 100% doing over this next. So those of you who don't have kids, this 2 weeks, starting this past Monday, it's supposed to be 2 weeks that we're going to have no school in Los Angeles, and I think everywhere in the whole country. And then for us, it goes, there's a week after that, and then the next week is spring break. So they're definitely going to just close the schools for the next 4 weeks. That's definitely going to happen. There's no way they're going to be like, oh yeah, have them come back for a week and then everyone go on spring break. They're just going to be like, what's one extra week to all these people? You're just going to have your kids for a month of no day camps, no place to send them, none of that. None of that. So, okay. Fine. But now, like, they're saying, the governor is saying, yeah, they might just not go back to school, which means these kids are supposed to get done in like May or June. And right now it's March, so April, May, 3 months of this. What? That's at the point where you got to get like all hands on deck as a family and just like figure out how you're going to get through this, because it's intensity. It's intensity. I'm lucky that my kids are only 6 and 4. It's not like there's like crazy curriculum. As long as like with him we keep working on math, spelling, reading, you're doing pretty much everything you need to do in with that. With her, you're like, you want to just color more? Like craft projects. The first day we grinded them and she just is not having it. So the next day, yesterday, my wife set up this awesome craft project where the kids made all these like St. Patrick's Day decorations. So we put them up in the window and everyone in the neighborhood did it. So then kids would walk around and you'd look for other kids that had like St. Patty's Day stuff up. And it was pretty cool. And she loved that. And then today we had that hike, and I think tomorrow morning it's going to be the same thing. Let's get up. Let's go on that hike. It tires them out too. You want them getting spent. Anyway, if you don't have kids, you're probably like, all right, dude, we get it, bro. We get you and your kids. But I do feel like something that this is going to do is this whole. It's obviously going to give people perspective. Like if you're not gaining any perspective through this thing, you gotta like take a little time to be like, man, what are the things I appreciate? Because now you're looking and you're like, oh, fresh air. People like live in New York that are on quarantine. If you don't have a balcony, you are not going outside. I'm pretty sure someone told me that maybe the parks are open, but I don't know if they are. Because I went to that state park today. My buddy goes, I thought the state parks were closed over text. And I'm like, they weren't for me, you know? So we went and do that. Like, so if you're in New York, you know, you're going to quickly realize, like, oh, yeah. Remember the last time we went to that restaurant and the food wasn't the way I liked it and I complained or I didn't tip? I think I've said this before. I got a real problem. I got a real problem with people who tip according to service. You're shit. Okay? You're shit. You tip the normal. Whatever you tip, that's what you tip. Whether the people are jerks, whether they're sweet, whether it's good service, bad, whatever. Well, how are they going to learn? Who are you? You're their fucking boss now? You're going to tell them how they need to... Shut up. Maybe this quarantine will help people realize, like, oh, yeah, man, maybe I shouldn't have, like, given that crazy bad Yelp review because on a busy night they forgot to bring my app. You know what I mean? You ever have someone get mad because they didn't bring their app? Shut up, dude. Well, they didn't bring our drinks. Shut up. Who cares? Is it so hard to be like, hey, you remember that Arnold Palmer 7030 I ordered? Is that so hard? It's not. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. How about this example? What if you go, hey, remember that 70, or nicely, excuse me, you remember I ordered Arnold Palmer 7030? You remember that? And they're like, oh, yeah, who orders it 7030? I'll get it. Let's say they give you that attitude. Whatever. You don't know what's going on with that person? Think about like all the stuff that people are going on right now that you have no capacity to understand. Like how many people have a job? How many people have a job that's dependent upon people being there? You know what I mean? Like what if you work at McDonald's? Now I know they still have drive-thru and stuff like that, but what if you're the one whose shifts are getting cut and you're working 9 to 5 or you're working paycheck to paycheck? Anything. Comedy clubs. I look at like the guys at the comedy store who work the door or the guys that work the phones or whatever. No, you're not there. When you're getting hourly, you're not still getting paid. And there's still going to be people that are on salary that they're going to be like, yeah, listen, I don't know. I have no idea how that's going to go because then people are going to be lawsuit. I don't know. I have no idea. I guess that's the difference between getting fired and getting laid off, right? You get laid off when they're like, we're making cuts, we don't have money. You get fired when you're just like, you're terrible. You're not a good worker. This is the point, though. This is what is going to put us into perspective. Like, just me being up there. I've been on that hike with my kids. I don't know. We've probably done that hike maybe 8 or 10 times, right? We never stop and just, like, did work at the bench. Or we never, like, we would always bring a snack to do there. And then sometimes we would bring, like, a full picnic and then go down and there's this big field. And then we would, like, lay out a picnic and, like, bring, like, balls to throw around. We'd bring some coloring stuff and just, like, hang out. But I'm like, oh, that could be, like, a fun way to, like... Now, I'm not saying you pull your kids out of school, but sometimes it's fun to, like, pull your kids out of school. There are things that, like... I always look at things that you just, like... I compartmentalize stuff. So, for me, like, hikes are an afternoon or morning thing, but always, like, a weekend thing. I never am like, oh, let me get the kids to school, and then I'll go on a hike, and then I could be home by 11 and still get, like, a bunch of work. I just never look at it like that. I'm always like, I got to drive out there. But the reality is, if I drop my kids at school, get her there by 8:30, I can shoot up there, do the hike, and be home by 11 and have, like, an amazing connection with nature. Otherwise, I usually come home, goof around a little bit, check emails, do what, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just giving me a little more perspective on, like, how much time I do have, or where I want to use my time. I think we're all kind of going through that. And I would love, by the way, for you to tell me what things you are now appreciating more with your time. Like, what things are you missing, and what things are you now like appreciative of that you have the time for? Because there's things like, for a lot of people, you just like, it may not be, you think you might not have the time to read a book, but you're not making the time to read a book, you know? And now you might be like, well, yeah, my work is kind of like shut down and I'm stuck in this house and I have all these books. Maybe you're reading books. Maybe you're like doing that project around the house that you've been saying you would clean out that laundry room for God knows how long, which is another thing I want to do. There's 2 closets and a laundry room I'd like to clean out, and and this garage are the 4 places I'm like, if I could get those cleaned out, I'd be pretty stoked. Clean out the kids' playhouse the other day, clean the whole thing out, gutted it, threw out so much junk. So here's the thing that I wanted to share about. You guys know I like architecture. I love it. I love houses. I love buildings. I love parks. Like, especially ones that are like designed parks. In New York, there's Central Park, and then in Brooklyn, there's Prospect Park. And we used to live pretty close to Prospect Park when we lived there, and we would go there a lot, and I loved it. It was like, it wasn't giant, but it wasn't tiny, and it had so much. It just had so much. And then someone told me one day, like, oh yeah, the guy who designed Central Park then designed Prospect Park, and always said that he preferred Prospect Park, like that's the way a park should be. I don't know, because it's smaller. I have no idea. But like, think about how rad that job is. Yeah, I design parks, man. Yeah, there's this. If you've ever been to New York, there's the High Line, which is they took this old raised train platform, like where a train used to run in New York, and it like started like overgrowing, like things just started growing on it. So they turned it into like this path with like, it's a walking path, but there's like, vegetation, and they planted a ton of stuff. And it's called the High Line. It's super rad. The guys who designed that park, the people, they designed a park in Santa Monica, and we've gone to it a couple times. Like, oh man, this park is sick. It's got like this deep water running along a walkway. There's tons of different areas planted with different plants, but like water running through, and like then there's like a kids area with water fountains. There's like these observation decks that like shoot out from, like, they've like made this hill, and then it shoots out and it goes like out over the sidewalk, and it's round, looks like a nest, and it lights up from underneath at night. I mean, sick. And it's like the same people, and you're like, man, how rad is your job? I design parks. You're not designing parks right now. That's one job. That is one job who's not working right now. What do you do? I design parks. For what? People socialize. Oh yeah, we don't need your work right now. Especially like no cities are paying. What cities or towns are like, yeah, we should really be investing in parks right now. One thing we always do with the kids when we go for walks is we point out houses. We point out the different like style of houses. We point out like where the windows are. I told you guys there's that house down the street from me that has like you can just walk down the front steps and everyone can see you. It doesn't make any sense why it's not a frosted glass. It's still not frosted. They've grown some hedges, but it's not high enough. You can still see. And now there's this other house, I think I mentioned it, that's got this bathroom that's got the shower is a full window, top to floor to ceiling, and it's right on the corner of the house, and it's just like you walk up the hill and you're like looking in the shower. And we dabbled in the idea, like, those some showers that like you shut the door and then the glass goes and it like turns into frost. Maybe it's something like that. I have no idea. But I'm just still like, so what? You're like in there, maybe you can see out, like if frost, so you can see out and they can't. I don't know. That would be pretty tight, though, a mirrored glass in your bathroom. I always thought, like, I'm an outdoor shower guy. I've talked about it. This has been another thing over these last 5 days. I'm just like, why do I not have an outdoor shower? Mainly because my landlord said I can't. That's the first reason. But again, why would that ever stop me? Because I looked up, there are these like you can get these like heaters where you put your hose into them. They're run by propane, okay, so they can be loud and they can give off fumes and they can catch fire. So there are some negatives. Depending on how loud it is, like you don't want to be like the whole point of an outdoor shower is to just be like feel the wind, have hot water on you, look around, see the breeze, see birds. You know what I mean? Like be outdoors, outdoors, man. But that is just like in the last 4 or 5 days, I've just been like, that needs to happen in my life at some point. Even if it's like creating lists of when these things are going to happen, it's just got to happen. Like at some point, like what am I doing with my life if I can't get myself an outdoor shower? That's why. So I was talking about architecture. You guys have seen this book. It's been on here for a while. This book, dude. Cape Cod Modern. Look at that. Tell me you don't want to stay in that house, for Christ's sake. That is insane. I mean, I can just like now to like these are simple houses. What it was is there was all this land in Cape Cod and like all these houses, like I don't know what happened. This one guy bought all this land. They bought like 5,000 acres, these two dudes. Come on, dude. Are you out of your mind? You don't want to live there? Why? What in your mind tells you, like, no, no, that's not a good place to live? Yeah, it is. It's insane. It's insane. Anyway, and they, like, I guess what used to happen is people used to go vacation in Paris, all these New York people. And then after the war, World War, they stopped going over there for a while. So then they started, like, going down here in the Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where this one dude had all this land and he was like friends with all these people that like were builders and architects, and they were like, "Oh, let's just all start like putting our stamp down." So there's all this like modern architecture that's down there that are just like these cottages. But this is something, if you've ever, this is not just a Cape Cod thing I'm going to show you. It's like a North Shore, Massachusetts, it's New Hampshire. I imagine this is kind of like Maine. Anywhere there's vacation, I bet this is like Wisconsin, Minnesota, like out on the lakes, is when they have the trees with the different family names with an arrow. So, like, think about how old school that is. You got to you're following the sign that just has the name of the family you're trying to find. Yes, dude. That's the greatest. And the thing about that, damn, I just can't. I love this book so much. The thing about that is like that's the simplicity. This is like you guys know the point of this podcast is like the simple things in life that we're just like skating over. And now with this pandemic and this isolation and this quarantine, I can't even believe these words. Can you believe these words? Quarantine, pandemic, isolation, with all these things happening, it really brings you back, even though the only way we're getting entertainment now is through anything digital, social media, cable, television, no one's really, I mean, maybe you're watching movies, but like, you're not going to be getting new content. Where? What do you think? Netflix is going to launch a new series that they just came up with? Things are getting halted completely. But it's the simple things like going for a walk. Like this is like what I'm seeing. I always go back to being a parent because I am one, and I'm sure a lot of you are. And if you're not, bear with me. And you know what? You're probably like, dude, I kind of like what am I, Todd Glass? This is what Todd Glass does. You're probably like, you know what? I love that you always talk about your kids and parenting because someday I want to have kids, or I was a kid once. But people, and I had this argument with so many parents for so long about why we wouldn't, my wife and I, give our kids phones at restaurants or iPads or like even iPads at home. We were like, nah, nah. So we finally have given my son an iPad to do like lessons on, not to watch videos or anything like that. And he's, finally at that age that we're like cool with it because this classroom is sending home these assignments in it. I mean, come on, dude. Come on. Look at that. clean line fireplace, built-in couch, that little light in the corner, the wood, post and beam, baby. Um, it's like everyone's consumed with what's the next new thing. Give my kid an iPad, or you got to get to weekends need to be filled with roller coasters, and I'm the same way. You want to make a special day with your kids, you're like, let's go to the rock climbing gym, or let's go to the Santa Monica Pier, let's go somewhere fucking crazy. And you're like, no. How about this? All you can do is walk around the block. Is that enough? I drove home from our hike today, and you take the PCH, which is next to the ocean, and there's Santa Monica Pier that has like a fucking roller coaster and a Ferris wheel. It's cool. And there was no one on it. And I was like, oh, man, it'd be so cool to just go there right now and walk with the kids because you can't do anything on it. And then I was like, well, if there's any place that germs are living, it's on that goddamn pier. You know what I mean? No one, Jay, the fucking germs will die. You have no idea. You don't know. None of us know. We don't know how long these germs are lasting. No one knows. Do you guys mind that I'm like thumbing through this book right now? I just can't tell you how like peaceful it makes me. But it's like when you take away all the stuff, even us, not just our kids, how long will it last when this thing is over? How long will it last when this thing is over that we'll just forget about all the things we did to entertain ourselves until we like forget it? Now, you guys obviously listen to this, and I feel like I hope that we're all very like-minded in as much as like what we believe in because we share this podcast together, right? But let's just say, oh, come on. Come on. Look at the balance, man. Look at that balance, using a deck to balance out. That's something that like I always point out to my kids. Like just take this house. Look at that. Long this way, then it goes up. But that's not a second floor. That's just a continuation of that roof that's slanted. And then they got this little lookout coming off over here probably because it's just sick. But like that is the thing that we're taking away from this pandemic is what are the things that you're doing now because you can't do the things you were doing before it, right? I mean, I'm not the only one who's like, I mean, maybe we're not thinking about it and maybe like I'm just putting it out there and now we're all like, oh yeah, okay, maybe not. Maybe you're like, yeah, no shit, Jay. Maybe it's going to get pretty fucking annoying. I don't know. But for me, so far, that like we're able to connect with our kids, we're coloring, we're drawing, we're going for hikes, when all you can do is go for a walk around the neighborhood, and it might get to a point where you can't. It's like I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm planning this hike for today because pretty soon if they shut everything down, then you won't be able to do it. So I'm going to try and get in a hike every single day with them because eventually we might not be able to do it, and I want to do it. You know what I mean? I want to do it, man. I want to take them hikes, son. We made a pumpkin bread the other day. It's not bad. I mean, I feel like cooking is something. All right, so how many people? So people are going to tell me the things you're missing, the things you're embracing, what jobs you have and how you've been affected, because I would love to be able to comment on this. Obviously, I tell you guys this all the time. My email is holidaybakeryproductions@gmail.com. I would say, I mean, it's not like you guys can talk to each other, but there's Facebook, there's Instagram. I post. You can comment. Tell me there. Oh, this is what my job was. This is what I'm doing. DM me, because I would love to be able to share with everyone else what your jobs were, what you're missing, and not the week after this podcast, but the week after that. Because how badass that would be, where we can all just learn a little bit. So please, Instagram, Facebook. I never check Twitter. If you're still on Twitter, like, I don't know, you got to be in your mid to late 20s. Or email me, holidaybakeryproductions@gmail.com. and or just comment on the YouTube page. You can comment there. I also want to say, if you are watching this or listening to it, do me a favor because it helps. Post it. Post it. Facebook, Instagram. Take a screen grab or a little video watching the podcast, and I'll repost it. If you post it and you tag me, I will repost it. You DM me a picture of you listening, I will put it in my stories. It just helps this podcast and, help you help me. And please share this with friends if your friends are talking about, just feel like it's like a simpler time now because you can't do anything. Share it with your friends. Like, oh, dude, you like simple times? This is what you love. This podcast. Anyway, tell me about those damn things. This is when I get into every now and then with my kids, I'll tell them jobs I wish. We were on our hike today. I don't know why. My daughter was saying she wants to be in the Army. They talk about guns and Army a lot. And it's really hard to tell a 4-year-old you don't know what the Army's all about. You don't even know what death, you know what I mean? You can't get into how deep can you get and be we tell them all the time you can't be the one who introduced them to Star Wars and then be stop making guns. You can only so many times and you're like, Jesus, I mean, it's only because of us. You know what I mean? We're the ones, and it's just you just don't want your kid looking at people bang, bang. And you're like, can you stop? But we're the ones who introduced it. And it's my fault. I was just I think he's okay for it. And he just got immediately addicted to Star Wars. And then whatever he does, she's going to do. But they were talking about it on our hike today. My daughter's I want to go in the Army. I'm going to be in the Army. And you're like, no, you're not. First of all, you're not going in the Army. Two, I go, it's just a very dangerous job if that's what you want to do. I don't know why, because I part of me is well, who are you? There are people that have a long, successful career in Army. Sure. And then at the same time, I'm well, what if you're saying, no, you're not? And it's just, that's the thing that drives you. Yes, I am. Kids want to rebel against their parents. And you're just kind of well, you don't. There are plenty of people in the Army that have great jobs and move on and have great careers. But you're yeah, there's a lot of risk involved in the Army. And she's all right, then I'll just be a police officer. Which, again, you can have a very successful career in law enforcement. And I'm thankful all the time for police. But it's yeah, that's a dangerous job. It's a very dangerous job. And do you want to be in a job? I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking down on it for anyone. I'm just trying to anyway. We started talking about oh, what are some other cool jobs? And then my head starts ticking oh, well, what other job could you do? Which at this point, not much. But I always thought I'm oh, and then I'm the first thing I want to do is be a fireman. I'm yeah, I want to be a fireman. I'm 44 years old, and my dream job is still the same as a 3-year-old's. I want to be a fireman, and you're goddamn right I do. I think for different reasons, though. I think for different reasons. Kids want to, they love a fire truck, and they love the sounds, and that's not what I want. You know what I want? I want to work 2 days in a week. That's it. They work 2 24-hour shifts, and then they go home for 5 days. That's why all firemen have painting companies. I mean, they all paint houses. Yeah, I do other stuff too. And I just want to be hanging out with a bunch of guys cooking. That's all I want. Just be hanging out. We cook, watch movies together at night, then we sack out. We get called to a fire. Yeah, we go. You're rolling the dice every night. You roll the dice 2 days a week. That's what it is. 2 days a week, you're rolling the dice that you're going to get called to a massive fire. I also, yes, those are the old man in me things that I want. I want to be sitting out front of I want to sit out front of a fire station in a wooden chair. That's what I want to do. Have people drive by, babe, tell stories, yap it up, have a kid come in yeah, let me show you the truck. That's what I want to do. Do I think I'd be a good fireman? I do. I feel like if there were fires, I'd go in, I'd be confident, I would learn how to be a fireman, and then I could go in there and do a good job as a fireman. Now, have I ever been in a fire? No. Have I ever burned myself on a pan Taking it out of the toaster oven? Yes. Did I hate it? Yes. Still think I'd be a good fireman. There's like a couple fire stations in LA that I'm like, that's where I'd want to be, dude. There's one in the marina. In the marina? Are you fucking serious? You live in the marina. You just live in the marina? You look out. What's your patrol job? You patrol the marina in a boat for a little while, and then you go back? There's another fire station up in Mulholland Drive, which is like the hill. Hollywood Hills go up. Mulholland is like the top, and it's like a crest line. I think I don't know if that's an official term, crest line. I think it is. And then down the other side is the valley, and that's Mulholland Drive, and it goes all the way from like the 405 all the way to like the 101. It goes across the city, east to west, west to east. And up there's this one point where it's just like a crazy lookout. There's no houses, and then like the here's Mulholland, and the land juts out this way, and there's a fire station there. Oh, you kidding? There's like a lifting bench in the driveway, like where the dudes pump iron and shit. I'm like, yeah, I would. Now theirs is a little more crazy. You're up in the hills, hill fires. Those streets are nuts. I have no idea what that must be like, but I just look at it. I'm like, yes, not a bad place to get away a couple days a week. You know what I mean? I think a fireman would be cool. Architect, landscape design. Landscape design. I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? I don't know anything about it. I even don't even know how to, like, we're going to plant a garden over this next 3 weeks. But I don't even know how you, like, regrow something. That's something I've always wanted to learn is, like, how do you grow potatoes, right? Hold on. 58. 11, that's 4. Okay. How do you grow potatoes and then like regrow them without seeds? You know what I mean? Like I never start a garden from seeds. Like I'm just not that guy. I don't That's a lot of work. I like going to the Home Depot or to like a nursery where they have like, oh, look, a little tomato plant that's this tall, or onion plant, whatever it is, and you just plant them and then you take care of them. That's what I like to do. Now, would I like to get to a point where I take it serious enough where I can then take seeds from a tomato? I don't even know how to do it. That's how dumb I am. Does anyone know? Those little seeds you get in the tomato, are those the seeds you plant? I don't know. And I know I sound so dumb. I sound so dumb even saying that. What do I do? So what do? I take the little seeds that you get in a tomato and I dry them? Maybe that is. I don't know. But I'd like to be able to do that where you plant a garden and then you keep your stuff for the next year. I don't know. You keep them in a mason jar or in dry store. How did they do it back in the day? I would someday. This is a thing I say. I say someday I'd like to learn how to do that. And you're just kind of like, well, Jay, you're talking right now about all the things that you're taking for granted in your life, and now the pandemic is like opening your eyes to. Why would you not take this opportunity to now learn? I don't know. I don't know. Probably because it sounds like a lot of work. You know what I mean? Probably because it sounds like a lot of work. And who wants to do a lot of work, dude? Nobody. That is a dream, though. Another thing I would love to have is a root cellar. A root cellar. You guys ever watch Chef's Table on Netflix? There was this dude like cooking in like Sweden. I feel like Sweden, where certain foods, like food can't grow in Sweden. I think like 8 months out of the year or something like that. It might be 4 months, but he had this like sick restaurant like out in this like rural area, amazing kitchen, like beautiful little kitchen, like a little house, and they had a root cellar. And a root cellar is just like a room that's built into earth. Usually they're like rounded up like this, and you can go. And I don't know why, but like something about like the moisture and temperature and whatever else. Like I'm pretty sure. Again, I don't know. Like a lot of the walls are still exposed earth, and then you have like shelves built in. But I'm pretty sure that like you could get a head of lettuce out of the ground, right? and put it in a root cellar, and it can live. It won't die for like 2 months. It's something crazy like that. Don't quote me on it. Don't you fucking quote me. You can also jar things and leave them in there for like 8 and 10 months. And I'm just like, oh man, that's just the dream. Just going into your root cellar where you get your pickled onions, jars of it, and like pickles, and you have like in the summer you grow all these tomatoes and you jar them, or you put them in there and they can just live. I don't know. Please, if you know anything about root cellars, fuck it. I'll look it up. Go ahead. Make me do all the work. I'll write it down. Root cellar. And what? Why am I like you're actually there? Root cellar and grow from seed. I'll look those things up. You happy? I just want to know about it. Again, this is why I was born to be able to communicate to people, because I would be better off learning where I went to someone's root cellar and they told me everything and we built it together, and then I'm like, okay, now I know how to do a root cellar. I built, when my friend designed me that mid-century modern office that I had in my yard, he designed it for me. I built it with my two friends, with my one friend, my boy Philly Z, Philly Steaks, and then I had to like tear it down. And so then when I went to go build this kid's playhouse, I didn't have any plans. I drew some stuff on a piece of paper. I remember what we did and just built it. I mean, it wasn't to the specs of the other one, but it was just like, yeah, I did it. It was done. That's how I want to learn. Anyway, root cellar, outdoor shower, giant. Like, by the way, with these houses, they're minimalist. They're minimal in that, like, you don't need a ton. It's just like big open space, fireplace, tucked away little sitting areas, little area, stuff like that. That's all I'm looking for. Places to get cozy and read and cook and eat. If I could do that the rest of my life, I mean, I talk to my wife about it all the time. Like when these kids are out of the house, I'm like, I said to her, I'm like, can we just have a house, or can we live somewhere that's just walking distance to everything? Like restaurants, bars, shops, museums, And she's like, yeah, who do you think you married? And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. But then to have a place like this, I know the place I would want to live, and so does she. Again, besides anywhere my kids live, because we definitely want to be near them. I think that was good. Remember, tell your friends about the podcast. Tell them. You're not going to fucking, how many of you even listening at this point? If you're still listening, tell your friends about the podcast. Tell them about my special on YouTube. Please just push them on me. DM them a link to my feed on Instagram, whatever. Just get people interested. You guys are you're my troops on the ground floor, baby. I love you guys. I hope you're all staying safe, and I hope you're all staying healthy and staying entertained and staying inspired. Staying inspired. I'm going to do something a little different next week, which is going to happen. I'm going to record it within 10 seconds of when this one ends. So, I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys. And gang, I'll talk to you next week, and the week after, and the week after that.